awon ni Aquino. Sundalo ni sa Ipongir sa Mindanao. Parang nakikita ng buhay. Sinanganog sukuki.
One. Yay! Oh, great.
Sorry, maybe Derek can do it.
Yay!
Us, our stream. You.
Yay! So, what are some reactions to the video?
There's so many children in it, and I'm just like thinking of their experience like making this, but like that doesn't even compare to like the daily experience. Yeah, no, and it was just really powerful. So many, like the woman in the beginning, in the end, who, like, just like speaking her own words. I don't know. I like that it was like so many people, their own words, telling their story.
I guess that was for me. I was just juxtaposing like the images of the children running, and then like the military that was coming in, and just how like. And I was just thinking to myself like how if it wasn't for the self-organization of Lumad people, like how much more precarious. I mean, like in a situation here in the U.S., how precarious it would be, like how much more precarious like a life just being a child would be. It just like takes me back to like how like in the U.S., you know, all police killings, you know, police killing children and all of that. That's what I was going. That was what was going through my head. So.
Laura, Christian.
I couldn't really like hear most of it, so my internet's so bad.
Were you able to see the images or the subtitles?
Barely. Like it was just like I could. It was so pixelated.
Oh.
I could see people like the clearest thing I could see was people singing into microphones.
Okay, you can watch the video on YouTube on your own time. The link is on the notes that Laura shared.
Okay.
I guess yeah, it was great to see like a variety like of people being part of the music video. Like Anna was saying, I especially liked the old woman like talking about like her own feelings, right, with her own words too. Yeah, I feel like it was a good like primer into what the situation is there if you haven't like taken any like studies or EDs or haven't heard from people who have gone there already. It's also cool to see what seemed like popular artists. Ruthie said the rapper is popular in the Philippines too. So it's cool that in their own way they're taking a stand for the rights of the Lumad people there by just participating.
I think like the grandmother or like the children, it's like similar to other people's responses. Yeah, I don't know. It was good to see. I don't know. It's a lot of children.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much I can pull from seeing a lot of children.
Right. Yeah. Actually, those students are from ALCADEV.
Yeah.
Students of ALCADEV, and I got to meet their evacuees. Yeah, they're evacuees also, right? But schools are still. Their schooling is still ongoing. one of them, Isang, she's like a main what girl there. She was the one who gave me a tour of the Bakwit and kind of, mentioned that like mostly women and children here. She said like that are from their communities are mostly women and children. Also, I think it kind of reflects the kind of movement that we need to be building. Because, like Laura said, a lot of people were involved in it. Because a lot of really mainstream artists actually contributed to this video. So I think it's a good metaphor for everything that we do, and also like a good primer, like Laura.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Everyone. It's me.
That's good. Never mind.
Okay. If you have any questions, like throughout, write them down, and maybe we can have some time to discuss or answer any questions, like towards the end, if we still have time. Yes. So, and of course, this is an ongoing discussion, and what we learn here doesn't stop after the ED. So please feel free to jump in at any time and ask people. Sige.
Okay. Great. Thank you all. Sige, so we're gonna start now. If you can go to the next slide on indigenous groups. So these are just some of the indigenous groups in the Philippines. The Aeta, which is they're scattered all over the northern island of Luzon. They're one of the first inhabitants of the Philippines. They're historically. Oh my God, what happened? Okay, they're historically hunting and gathering society, generally darker complexion, and they're mostly in the northern island, like I said. And then bringing us down to the Igorot, which are, they're also known as Cordillerans. They live in the mountains of Cordillera region. Have you ever seen those big rice terraces, the famous rice terraces in the Philippines? So the Igorot were the people who had done that. The indigenous peoples were the ones who had innovated those rice terraces that the Philippines created. Then bringing us down to the Moro and the Lumads, which are on the bottom part of that image. The Moro and the Lumads are the two national minorities or that's what they're technically called, national minorities in Mindanao, which is the southernmost island. Oh, circles here.
Oh. Cool.
Okay, we're just gonna wait.
Yeah. Oh, I think we can continue.
Okay. Can y'all hear me okay, by the way?
Yep.
Yes.
Hi.
Is it?
Oh my
God!
Hi, Mom.
Oh, hi, Mom.
Join us. There are seats in the side.
Here,
there are seats here. Please join us. More people came in. John, can you move the donuts? Yes, we're running a bit behind, so we're just gonna push through. Welcome, Mark and John, to the ED.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hello. Okay, so we were just going through the indigenous groups. I had talked to. Oh, hi. Hello. Yeah, I just do a check-in. Okay.
Yeah, maybe at the end.
Okay. Yeah, people just seem. Okay. Anyway. So we can just push through. So like I was saying, the two indigenous groups at the top are mostly in the northern part of the Philippines, the Aeta and the Igorot. I was saying that the Igorot peoples were the ones who are responsible for cutting the rice terraces. They created the rice terraces that the Philippines is famous for. And the Moro and the Lumads are the two national minorities in Mindanao, which is the focus of this ED. Because Mindanao is one of the most militarized and oppressed places in the Philippines. So for the Moro, the difference between the Moro and the Lumad is that the Moro are the Islamicized peoples of the Philippines. So they practice the religion of Islam. So oftentimes, when they teach this, when people teach this in the Philippines, they say that they're all descended from the same group of people, but the Moros were the ones who converted to Islam. And the Lumads were also the ones who decided to live in the hinterlands of the Philippines. So they live higher up in the Philippines, in the mountains, or in Mindanao, the mountains of Mindanao specifically. So for the Moro people, when you hear the word Bangsamoro, actually, who's heard of this term, Bangsamoro? Okay. The term Bangsamoro is a political term because it refers to the Moro nation, meaning that it's connecting the Moro people's struggles to their land, signifying their long struggle for self-determination, because the Moro people are actually the folks who are fighting colonialism for the longest in the Philippines. Because Mindanao, the southernmost part of the Philippines, was never fully colonized by the Spanish. There are 13 tribes of the Bangsamoro, and the reason why they were never fully colonized by the Spanish is because they had a more advanced form of economy and society than the rest of the Philippines back in like the 1400s. And so they've been struggling since the 1600s against colonialism and against powers that have been trying to push into their lands. And it's really important, even though when we go to Mindanao, you know, some of us might not be able to integrate with Moro communities, but also to acknowledge their struggles, because a lot of the conditions in Mindanao also include the Moro, right? And they experience a lot of militarization, you know, perhaps even more so than a lot of groups, because they have the double, sort of the double identity, the extra identity, layer of identity of being Muslim and then having a lot of Islamophobia directed at them by the rest of the Malay descended populations in the Philippines. Because the Philippines, as you probably all know, is mostly predominantly Catholic country. So yeah, it's really important to acknowledge that. Their schools are also occupied by the military. They experience a lot of militarization. They even experience all-out war, which means that like in the open, the AFP and like armed militants fighting for self-determination were fighting in like right near civilians' homes, and they continue to encamp outside of schools. So it's really important to also understand that they're part of our campaigns to support Mindanao.
So just to add also with the word Bangsamoro, it doesn't necessarily mean, like some people identify with the word Bangsamoro, but they're not Muslim. So there are people who identify as a Bangsamoro or Catholic, or who might not just, you know, are atheist or like agnostic or something. But they identify with the struggle for the right for their land. I just want to clarify that not all people who are Bangsamoro are Muslim.
Yeah, it's like a more political term rather than religious. So onto the Lumads, which is more, you know, more of a commonly used term because the campaigns that we've been running is more focused on the Lumad. There are 18 ethno-linguistic tribes. They live in the highlands of Mindanao, so it takes a really long time to get to their communities. Oftentimes you have to hike 6 hours through a mountain. They're mostly peasant communities, and so are the other groups. They're peasant communities. They're also discriminated against because they are indigenous. And we're going to learn more about this, but they've set up their own schools and community organizations because the government doesn't provide for them, and it's too inaccessible for them to go to the schools in the city. And the Lumads have been fighting since like the 80s. They've been displaced by the military, the armed forces of the Philippines. And they're also the folks who've been fighting against the transnational corporations that are encroaching on their ancestral domain. But the schools are like a recent development, like the 90s or early 2000s. But yeah, the Lumads are the indigenous groups that do not practice Islam in Mindanao. Are there any questions? Oh my
Oh,
god.
I do have a question.
Just fell.
Okay.
I do have a. I have a question.
Oh,
Yeah. Christian has a question.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. Because we were talking about the like clashes in in the Moro community. So you said it's like between the Philippine military and who? Because you said there was like some fighting happening,
Oh,
like
yeah, there are
near civilian homes.
like armed militant groups in among the Moro. So there are various separatist groups. There is the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, which
Okay.
which recently put down arms because they negotiated a peace treaty with the government, and they're basically like complicit now in a lot of neoliberal reforms. We actually got to visit them, and when we walked in there, everyone was in suits, and they were like, they put us in this room where there was like a panel with microphones, and it looked like we were at Congress.
Yeah.
So yeah, but they put down arms. There's also the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters, or BIFF, and just FYI, always say MILF. Just spell it out. MILF, BIFF. They also practice jihad, which is like, waging holy war to protect their people, and what they want is a theocratic Islamic state. So like a state that is run by the rules of Islam, and they're still fighting.
Yeah. And but there's like I know a lot of people are also curious for the exposures about the Amara situation, and we can definitely talk more about it because it's like a rich history of like who are they fighting for, what do they want, what are their demands, and there are different groups and factions throughout the history. So right now, currently, it's the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters who are still active, I guess, and MILF.
Yeah, and then MNLF. So there's a third.
So MNLF is like the first group who were really like fighting for their liberation, for the Mindanao, for the Moro liberation. But then also they also put down their arms, and things happened, and then the MILF emerged from that, and then things happened again. So now there's this BIFF.
And MNLF actually, in like a smaller capacity, still fights. Their founder was from the First Quarter Storm.
Yeah, he was part of like contemporaries with Joma.
The founder of MNLF.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moro National Liberation Front. So
MILF is the one that sold out to the peace treaty?
Yeah. Right now.
Yeah.
So the BLF.
But BIFF is the one that's waging jihad.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Do you have something else to say?
Yeah, I was just wondering, when it comes to that, when it comes to like, in terms of like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to just construct this. Like, when it comes to the BIFF and like going towards jihad, what sort of like Sharia law does it like conceive of? Because I know there's like various like differences amongst like what that means depending on which group of.
Not sure.
I'm not
Didn't hear.
Sharia law.
Yeah, I actually am not sure, but we can definitely look into it and consult with other of our, like, the people that we went to in Mindanao, because they have a more rich history and also more information on that.
Yeah. And if you want, there's going to be events in the future, like February 10 will be like all about that.
Yeah.
So we'll try to get that recorded so y'all can watch.
Like fire. Okay, cool.
Thank you. Maybe we can put that as a background question. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, and then there's just another thing. I saw in like the Expo preparation notes that like the government has created like paramilitary groups, or like indigenous paramilitary groups. Should I just like hold that question later, or okay?
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to talk about Mindanao. Like, why is there such a focus on Mindanao? There's currently about 60% of the AFP, from 57 to 60% of the armed forces of the Philippines concentrated in Mindanao. And why is that? Like, why is more than half of the armed forces of the Philippines being sent here? Do you have any ideas? Do folks know why that is? Guesses.
So from what I understand, like along with the BLF and I mean I think that it has to do with like the reconfiguration of military forces towards Muslim majority countries due to in Muslim majority regions due to the war on terror. And so like they've been like, and because like Mindanao is just such a resource heavy region, and I think it also has to do with the fact that the MPA is also rising there too. Like just recently, it went from like 40 brigades or something like that to 46, something like that. So like you just have a bunch of groups in Mindanao, like just like growing. It's just like, oh well, I mean just because like it seems that like that's like where the never mind. I've said all yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're definitely right. It's rich in resources. It has what is it? The statistic is fourth. Mindanao ranks 4th in copper, 3rd in gold, and 5th in nickel, and 6th in chromite deposits in the world. So that's a lot of natural resources that is just sitting there in Mindanao, and there are people who are living there. So there are people, the people that the AFP, the government, the Philippine government work with, like all these foreign investors who have all these like tools to harvest the riches in Mindanao. Like that's why, like one of the reasons, right? It's they're working with big national companies, international companies to harvest all those resources. So they want to eradicate the people who are living there, who are defending their land in order to take it. And then the second thing that you said, that there is a strong people's resistance there, be it in the form of the NPA, the BIFF, MILF, whatever it is, the people are really gathering together and saying, no, this is not okay. We are not going to just, give in to neoliberal policies that exploit our people.
Also, to my knowledge, like Mindanao, like geographically is positioned for like U.S. militarization, because like especially like in Palawan, like that's a strategic way to combat China with the Asia Pacific pivot and the TPP.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Yeah, you said it all. It is also a strategic location.
Yep, I think that's good. Also, there are like areas where people are already starting their own government to combat the current reactionary fascist government. So it is one of the strongest areas for a movement in the country. So yeah, that's why there's a lot. Also, another interesting fact or statistic is that there are actually more troops in Mindanao now than there are in Iraq.
Whoa!
Wait, U.S. military?
Yes.
Wow.
U.S. military.
Crazy.
Especially since EDCA passed, and now they have like, they're legally allowed to be there now. Yeah.
Okay, great. So next slide is on environmental issues. So like Lucy mentioned, there are a lot of foreign multinational companies that come into Mindanao because it is one of the most mineralized places in the entire world. There's about $1 trillion worth of untapped mineral resources. $1 trillion. So that's why companies from everywhere are trying to get the piece of their pie in Mindanao. And when I was there, I saw cargo ships, 27 cargo ships in one bay, from Japan, Korea, China, the US, all over, trying to get some of that mineral wealth. It has the third largest deposit of gold, fourth largest deposit of copper, and fifth largest deposit of nickel. And when these companies do that, they do open pit mining, so it destroys the mountains. And you can see from this picture how, what should be all green, there's like this brown-orange dust that is rising. And about 500,000 plus hectares of land is covered by mining concessions, especially because the government of the Philippines passed a law in 1995 that liberalized the mining in the country. So it made it easier for companies to be able to go and just start drilling and extracting resources. And what this means is that mining erodes the land. It can cause landslides, flooding, which kills entire communities of people. You can look up pictures and you can see communities with like a big hole in the ground because mining was happening and then all the tunnels collapsed in on themselves. Another big issue environmentally is siltation, which is like what happens when the the minerals start to change the water in wherever they're mining. So it starts killing life in bodies of water. So there are a lot of biologically dead rivers already throughout Mindanao, destroying beaches, what should be like white, pristine beaches are turning that color, which is like orange-brown. There are also a lot of plantations that are killing the environment, like banana, pineapple, palm oil, and rubber plantations. In the Philippines as a country is considered the second most dangerous place in the world for this.
What ranking?
Second.
Second out of, or just second?
Second in the entire world.
For what?
I think the most
dangerous
might be in Latin America. I think
Wait, second in the entire world for what?
For like activists to be there, I think. Like it's too dangerous for them to be in the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
Second most dangerous place to be an environmental activist.
Wasn't there just like a French activist that was found dead? With their
Oh, yeah.
family?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. So again, are there any questions so far?
Yeah. Wait, I'm just wondering, what year was the act that like liberalized mining operations in the Philippines?
95.
95. All right, and that was under the which this is like the second Aquino U.S. regime.
Ramos.
95 to 2000. Yeah. Fidel Ramos, it was the president.
So that's basically land is life.
Yeah. TLDR. Land is life. Okay, so as we mentioned before, Mindanao is one of the most militarized places in the Philippines, or it is rather. And did I talk about this already?
Just like, yeah, I think you said that.
Yeah, I said that. So, yeah, there is what they call Oplan Bayanihan, which is the counterinsurgency program that was modeled after the U.S. counterinsurgency program. I know some of the people here have attended Oplan Bayanihan. You want to share kind of like succinctly what that is?
Well, I haven't taken it, but I know what it is.
Yeah, sure.
So Oplan Bayanihan is like is basically the Filipino version of the War on Terror. It Like the wording is like when you actually look at this document, it's like very very bright and colorful. Like it's got cartoons of like
Really?
the AFP. Yeah, it does. It's like cartoons of like the AFP, like helping like the indigenous communities and stuff. But it's primarily like a paramilitary program where they'll basically prop up what are known as like false like chieftains or like datus, who probably aren't that popular, but because of the connection to the AFP, they're able to engage in what can be covered up as tribal warfare, but they're in the end they're sponsored by the AFP with weapons and supplies, and they're basically just bandits.
Yeah.
I think most counterinsurgency programs in the Philippines has employed that tactic. But what's unique about Oplan Bayanihan, besides that, right, is besides pitting each other, the indigenous people against each other, is also the community service component to it, which makes it very difficult for the masses, the people there, to just take sides, basically, right? Because they are being blackmailed. For example, in the community that I integrated in, right? I forgot their term for it, but they would say something. Oh, if there was a storm or a typhoon, and there are grassroots organizations that are distributing relief, the government will come, or the military will come into the community and say, if you take relief goods from these organizations as opposed to us, then we will immediately be tagged as insurgents or as members of the People's Army or NPA. And they become targets, right? And even in the houses, the homes that they had, like residents have to sign an agreement stating that they will not cooperate with certain organizations. And that include those indigenous organizations that we mentioned earlier. So that's what makes it tricky. They say they go there for humanitarian reasons, but actually it's counterintelligence and counterinsurgency.
Absolutely. And also just to share, when we also went on Expo in November, there were military in Compostela Valley where we went, in Saludpungan, Side 4. There was, I don't remember, infantry battalion, was it 34, 33, 34, 33?
Or actually, no, 36.
36 infantry battalion camped outside of the school, literally like outside the gate, a few feet away from the school, occupying communities' houses, where they were like hanging their clothes, eating their food, using their electricity to charge their cell phones. And they were talking to the children and saying, oh, do you want candy? And then asking them like, oh, where are the Americans? And then when the community leaders asked them, what are you doing here? They're like, oh, we're just offering relief. And they're like, relief for what? We don't need anything. We're fine. And they were like, oh, yeah, we're just going to stay here for a few more days because we're waiting for more relief goods from the city. They're coming. There's going to be more relief goods. But there was no need for any relief goods. The Lumad schools have their own garden. They have their own source of food. So they didn't need any relief. And when they were starting to ask them to leave, and they're like, you know, you're not supposed to be here. This is a school area. They just said like, oh, we were ordered to be here. So this is rampant. And it was like really shocking for me as an exposurist to see that, like, whoa, like this is literally happening. You think that it's maybe one community, like maybe it's not that, it's not that bad, but it actually is.
Yeah, and just to add to that area, that I was on the same trip.
Yeah.
The area was hit by a typhoon several years ago, and some of the houses, the government relief houses, are still not built,
Yeah.
and it was the typhoon hit like yeah. So that's like a decade ago. Right?
Yeah.
The houses that the government was supposed to build for the Lumads weren't built. There was barely any relief, yet the soldiers were claiming that they were there to provide humanitarian relief to these climate survivors, or natural disaster survivors.
And the question of like, why them, of all the people? Why is the military providing all these relief? Where is the Department of Health, the Department of Welfare, or like whatever other departments that are supposed to do that? Why is it that the military are the ones doing that? Yeah, like when people are actually questioning, like, why are you here? The response that they would get is, they would either get tagged as, what they said, tagged as like a rebel fighter, an insurgent, or they would get taken away, disappeared. There's a lot of people who are community leaders, who are activists, who are disappeared, or they are tortured and killed. The repression, state repression, is very strong.
And the relationship of the military with the mining companies is that they're actually bought out by the mining companies to go and secure the land. So oftentimes they're the ones who are scouting the areas that a company might want to expand in, and then they might also be the ones trying to get the indigenous peoples to sign their lands away. When I was in Expo in summer, there were like huge stockpiles of minerals that were being guarded by the AFP, even though it was a private company stockpile.
Yeah. So yeah, the private companies using government arms, like government groups, to protect their own, which is characteristic of the Philippines as semi-feudal, semi-colonial society. Yeah, and then also just U.S. military aid, because it's like they're just helping people. Has gone from $50 million to $79 million.
So that's your taxpayers' money.
Yeah, our money. Yeah, getting sent there. Tax season.
Yeah, right. That's
Make sure you get your return.
Why we need the tax boycott? Yeah. Are y'all on video following along? Okay.
Well, I just have a few questions. Well, when it comes to like what you said about the like the troops and how like they would just be there, just be like saying like, yeah, we're just helping, Is there also like the way how you described it? It's kind of like also reminded me of like how NGOs do.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, I know there are like some really good ones, but like, are there ones that like come into Lumad communities like from the U.S. like international ones that are also collude with the Philippine government?
Yeah. Does someone I know some of us that have gone on Expo who have learned specifically about that. Does anyone want to share about with American NGOs? Or NGOs coming in and being form of counterinsurgency?
I know that when we were in Mindanao, there were like, I don't know specifically for the Lumad community, but in Mindanao generally, there's like signs like, oh, this bathroom is being built by UNICEF, or like something like some American NGO, and there's like this like culture of like at the end, like, what is it? They're promoting the culture of like the people being reliant on these NGOs, because they like continue to go there to like give money to create like whatever community center, and what Nina said also, of like, you know, making sure that they don't accept any like education or any type of quote unquote help from people's organization who are actually rooted in communities. They instead like look at the U.S. or foreign NGOs and take that kind of help. So there's like for the masa or the people who are there who don't necessarily who, you know, they're really just barely surviving. Some of them just, you know, are like their husbands have been killed, so they just want to have some food for their table. So of course they will just take like whatever spam or whatever noodles they get. So that culture of like being reliant on just the what is given to you instead of looking at the root problem is also can also be seen in Mindanao.
Right.
And specifically, U.S. aid is, I guess, an NGO that the U.S. military uses in propagating this type of counterinsurgency. Because Oplan Bayanihan, the special thing about it is that it's people-centered, meaning that it tries to win over the hearts and minds of the people through humanitarian aid. And so by, you know, putting out these pictures of soldiers giving out relief goods,
So nice.
or, you know, like they're trying to have this this image of like this helpful, you know, armed occupation. But and the thing is, it's not just targeted towards the indigenous peoples. It's targeted towards the entire country, so that the country is under, or the people of the Philippines is under the impression that what's happening in Mindanao is okay. So yeah, it's propaganda also.
It reminds me a lot of like what some police departments are doing now to make themselves look good, like on social media and stuff. They'll put up pictures of like police officers like with children, like doing whatever, like just be, I don't know, just like doing like what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like hugging cops or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So we're just gonna push. Oh, sorry, John.
So like, it seems like they're trying to engage in a lot of, or at least like on the surface level, like relief, like that's similar to like these other armed groups that are, you know, genuinely like asking them like when they need help and providing. But like, you know, once this fog of war sets in, where it's like, you know, is there any like visual tell like between like the Oplan Bayanihan agents and like other militarized groups and like, you know?
Wait, sorry, what's the question? Visual?
Like, is there like is there a way to distinguish them basically? Because like at least on the surface level, it
between
can
AFP
appear.
and paramilitary?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Or like just all the organizations in general.
Oh, like the people's organizations,
Yeah.
or well, I don't like just like visually, like can you tell? Like I don't know, but I mean the people's organizations, especially the peoples that we met there, are really like the community knows them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's how you know that they're, you know, they're people's organizations, because they actually converse with the community and not just like, I come here with all these guns and also relief goods. Like those are strangers really coming into communities. So I think that's the difference, and the community will know.
Yeah. And sometimes even if they, I've read things where like a lot of Lumads who are indifferent are like, you know, to me all the soldiers look the same, but the difference is that the NPA pay for what they take. I remember seeing an image like that. Whereas the AFP are notorious for, you know, getting drunk and like being rowdy and disrespectful and like taking up resources of the community, like what Ruthie was recounting from November. But we're just gonna transition then into evacuation, right? So when a people is occupied, the Lumads under militarization are forced to evacuate from their homes. So this is often called a Bakwit or evacuate. Or so like when you say in Tagalog, evacuate, Bakwit. Okay. Okay. So that's an evacuation. And Bakwits have been happening every year, multiple Bakwits since the 80s. In Mindanao, there are at least multiple Bakwits per year in different indigenous communities. And what this looks like is, like in the picture, people just taking their things and then going on an exodus down the mountain where they live into the cities below, and then just camping out, usually in like a church or like a gym, and basically waiting it out because the military make it unsafe for them to stay in their homes. And so it's also important to. Oh my God!
The ceiling! Oh my God!
Are you okay?
I should move.
Everything fell already.
No, I like it.
We should tell
We need to record this. Put in a recorder.
Yeah. Go to the other side. Okay. Sorry about that. Back to the other side. Oh my God, it's so timely. It's okay. Sorry, shit us.
Are y'all good?
Yeah, we're okay.
Did a piece of ceiling just fall?
Another piece.
Like this is
What?
This is like a college house. What is this?
It is a college house.
It is.
it's somebody's home, and then St. Peter's took it.
Converted it.
Okay.
Shit.
sorry, going into gentrification.
Yes. Okay. Is everyone okay? Can we continue with our?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how Bakwit works, right? And oftentimes when the militarization in the communities, like John was saying, like the direct human rights violations aren't done by the AFP themselves, but done by paramilitary groups. And paramilitary groups are Lumads. They're indigenous peoples that are organized and trained by the AFP. They're armed. Oftentimes they don't even have wages. They're just given false promises that they're going to get some land if they are able to do this thing for the AFP. And they go and terrorize their own community. And this is a form of divide and conquer that goes that also goes into the counterinsurgency program of Oplan Bayanihan. Of course, the government denies this, but there's been multiple. There's been a lot of evidence that they're organized and trained by them. And we're gonna talk about this later. But the big massacre that happened in ALCADEV, which is the school that Bea and I visited, the people there were killed and terrorized by paramilitary groups. So that's why oftentimes the government's like, oh, that's not the AFP, that's a tribal conflict. That's because y'all are like naturally violent people. And that's something you have to figure out internally. But yeah, like I said, evacuations have been happening for decades at this point. But it was only in the 90s that the Bakwit started happening in mass, like as a big form of protest down the mountain, with different communities coming together, and then as one big group going to the cities and protesting and bringing awareness to their situation. And this is due to the highly sophisticated organizations of the Lumads. They have very, very strong organizations that have put these Bakwits together to put pressure on the Aquino government and acknowledge the militarization happening in their communities. So it's both a good and bad thing because by leaving the land, they are protecting it.
I have a question. Can you clarify the organizations that are putting Bakwits together? I don't understand.
Yeah, so it depends on in where you are in Mindanao, but for us in Huentacaraga, in the northeastern region, where ALCADEV is, there's an organization called Mapasu, which is a community organization made of indigenous folks. A lot of them are ND organizations. They're national democratic organizations that follow the same program, same line as Anakbayan.
Oh, so are they providing relief during the Bakwit? Because I thought the Bakwit is like evacuation by the paramilitary or the military.
They're the ones who convince the community to leave as a group down the mountain.
Oh, I see.
The Backwits, yeah. Because before they started doing the Backwits, what would happen is they would run away into the forest.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So, like for example, you see a soldier and they're like terrorizing people. You know, your instinct as a person is just to take your immediate family and run away into the forest. But then what happened before was when they would do that, the military would go and follow them and kill them. So by making it even more public, what's happening by coming together and being like very visible, the Bakwit is a form of protest instead of just like an evacuation of running away.
Okay, so what happens to the land after it's evacuated? Is it taken?
The military party parties on the land.
They encamp there.
Yeah, they encamp there.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's a form of protest that they can't be killed, but they're still having their land taken away by leaving it.
No, well, Bea, do you want to?
Yeah. They're not necessarily okay. So the Bakwit is a political statement, right? Number one, to bring their struggle, the issue of militarization to the city. That's why they go from really high up to the city because they're very far away. Otherwise, the news, right? So that's one reason. So for propaganda, right? The other reason is that their demand is for the military to leave, and they will only go back if the military leaves.
I see.
Yeah. And also, let's think about why the military is there, right? Is to protect or to kind of further these agreements that they have with private corporations that want to mine in those areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like kind of like this like kind of reminds me of like the whole like what the YPG have done in between Syria and Iraq when they came to like they were evacuating and they made a tactical retreat. They did so to try and like also protect the Yazidis who were being massacred by ISIS. So it's kind of like a way of like regrouping because you can't have all it's in war. It's not all about land. It's all about like trying to build up the fighting spirit of the people.
Yeah.
It's not all about land.
It's not just land. It's also about building
the popular the strength of the masses. There and keeping the organizational capacity of them intact.
Sorry, you're cutting off. Could you repeat, please?
Strength of the masses.
Keeping the masses and keeping their organizational capacity intact. Because like, if it was just like, oh man, we're all going to the forest, it's kind of
evacuation. Yeah, because when we were there, it's actually like also like a really a community discussion. It's not just like for example, the people who were there, the people's organization that were there in Compostela Valley with us as they were trying to struggle, are we going to evacuate, are we going to stay here? Where the Compostela Valley Farmers Association, or CFA, there was also Save Our Schools Network, who we work with. There was also the, what's the ano, si Ate Rachel? Philippine International? No, si Ate Rachel. There was another one. And then Salugpungan International. So it wasn't just like them saying Balsa Mindanao. Like these people's organizations saying, y'all need to Bakwit. Like, no, it's like a community discussion. And it was like a very long discussion, multiple days of trying to really like struggle. Why are we doing this? What's gonna happen if we stay? What about our crops? What about our animals? Yeah. And there were people who wanted to just stay there. There were people who wanted to leave. the children were part of this discussion. And yeah, the elders were like, okay, what do you think? And they were like, we just don't want to be with the military. We don't want what happened in whatever they want to happen again. Because in that specific community that we went to, there was one student who was killed because she was caught in the crossfire. And the Datu who actually came in one night was actually like recounting that experience of like, yeah, we just don't want it to happen again just because there's military here. We're really vulnerable and in the middle of kind of like the civil war between the military and like other armed groups. So it was a very long discussion. So I just wanted to clarify that it's not like a command, like everyone needs to evacuate because of the People's Organization, but they were there to provide context and also information that it's not just happening in one community, but also you're connected with other Lumad communities being pushed out and being occupied.
Yeah. And I also wanted to clarify too that like it is about land, right? Because not all Lumads are like organizers and activists who have this perspective, this like big picture perspective that this is what Bakwit's supposed to mean. It takes a lot of organizing to get these thousands and thousands of people to that point, and it has to be made clear to them that by doing this, they are protecting their land because their land is their life.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine leaving your land for months at a time when your land is your source of livelihood? It means life for you. So that's why it takes a lot of organizing by people's organizations to get Lumads to go, because not all Lumads are automatically going to think of their organizational capacity or think about these like strategies. They're gonna think about their land, right? And then they're being able to live off their land.
And also, as another kind of like background to why the Lumads are like in the hinterland, they originally were in what they call the Patag, or the flatlands. So they're not originally in the mountains or in the hinterlands, but because landlords have taken on those flatlands, those Patags, they were forced to leave the Patag and just find like a forest somewhere. And then now that they're learning that there's minerals like wherever there are now, it's the same thing. Like they're getting pushed out of that land again. So where are they supposed to go? So yeah, so it's not just like this is happening because it's not just a one-off thing that they're getting forced to evacuate or forced out of their lands. It's like really historically they have been pushed out and pushed out and pushed out.
Yeah. So at this point, Energizer, and here's a video to get us ready for Energizer. Whoa! Pretend you're going up to see a Luma. Derek is not amused.
I've also seen this video like 20 times.
I love this video.
I can't wait to do this.
So the Energizer is we're gonna go outside, get a motorcycle, class on the motorcycle, and we're gonna practice with it. How about? Okay, no, I'm just kidding.
We're not doing that.
Okay, but we are doing Energizer, so we can all get on.
Stand up, stand up.
So we just put a bunch of information at right? I know it's like a lot.
Maybe like let's move the words that way. John, can you move
The table's like that, actually.
Just like face it that way so they can see the people. Okay.
Oh, but I was gonna show the clap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, actually,
show. Okay.
So we're gonna teach you some of the claps that the students at the schools would do.
John.
So
Sarah, can you push it down? Okay, cool.
So what the schools would do, the students, whenever something good would happen, they have these claps that they learn to do to respond to like the good thing that happened, right? So one of the first ones are N-I-C-E, N-I-C-E, nice, 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 nice. Ready? Nice.
What color is the star?
Red. And then the second one I remember, I don't know if you remember any other one, but it goes, galing means great, right? Like you're great. So it goes, galing, galing, galing mo talaga, idol ka. Clap, clap, clap.
Wow. As in, I look up to you.
You're an idol.
Yeah.
American. You're my idol.
So can you do it again? So,
Please.
Galing, galing mo talaga, idol ka. Clap, clap, clap.
Okay, ready?
Galing, galing, galing mo talaga, idol ka.
We're gonna have to do that like 10 times just to get that.
Me yesterday.
Okay, yun lang. That's it.
Unless you want to do it again.
Thank you. So now we have to do it now, from this point on. Yeah. Yeah. So when you go to the communities, you can relate with it to the students.
Like dance for our next
Galing, galing mo talaga.
Okay. Sige.
Great. So I hope y'all are energized. Because there's more information.
Okay.
Yay. Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the schools. Yeah, so the Save Our Schools campaign is something that we are taking on and really talking about, like, why are the schools important in the communities? Why were they established in the first place? So as we talked about earlier, is like the areas that these Lumad communities live in are very remote, and most of the time the government don't really take the time to go to these communities to teach them how to read, how to write. So that was the community, the Lumads, decided that they wanted to put up the schools to really combat illiteracy, to teach them how to read and to teach them how to write. In the back. Yeah, so they didn't have access to public education. They weren't learning about anything. So that's one of the reasons why, primary reasons why they did that. They also decided that the curriculum would also be culturally relevant to teach it to their children about their history and their culture. And one of the things that, well, I didn't know this going to the school, but I learned that the curriculum that they actually teach are also patterned from what the government requires people to teach, but instead they particularize it to the experiences of the community. So in cities, you probably won't learn how to plant crops, what is, like, other agricultural lessons. But of course here in a Lumad community, you would learn about that. So they particularized it. And yeah, so the songs that they learn are about their culture, about their resistance, which is why are they fighting, what is happening to their communities, what are all these multinational companies coming into their land, why is there a struggle, why is there resistance? So they learn about their history. Yeah, do you want to add anything?
Sure, yeah. And I think a way to understand these schools is they're kind of analogous to the freedom schools that are in Ayotzinapa, that were also set up here by the Black Panthers, right? It's a way to actually educate youth about their history, like Ruthie said, and to get them to take pride in it. Because if they don't, if they go to the normal public schools in the Philippines, they will be discriminated against for being indigenous. Some of the youth that I met would tell me, that when she went to the schools, the normal Filipino schools, The kids would make fun of her and say that she smelled bad. They would call her the equivalent of like racial slurs against indigenous folks. And basically make them ashamed of themselves, right? A lot of like internal hatred that would be planted if they went to those schools. Whereas if they just went to the schools that were put up by their communities, they would take pride in their culture and defend their ancestral domain, which is the most important thing, because education is resistance, like the slide said. If the youth didn't get this education, the land would be gone. When I was there in ALCADEV, they told us without these schools, our culture would be dead. It would be ethnocide, because that's what Bakwits are, ethnocide. It's a killing of a culture, killing of a people. Because the more and more they are pushed out into the cities, the more and more they are not connected to their land. And the indigenous people tell me without their land, they have no culture. Because that's what defines being human, is being in the hinterlands. And then, you want me to go to this one? Yeah. Okay. And also, so, unless you want to.
Yeah, sige. You can add. We mentioned before, the military occupying schools, and there is actually an international law that prohibits military from being in schools. They need to be 500 meters away from schools, but they still go and occupy these schools. So again, like it's part of like the Oplan Bayanihan that they occupy and take the schools.
That's true. That's part of the campaign, the SOS campaign. But on top of the counterinsurgency that Lucy was mentioning, the schools are tagged as rebel schools, and it's often the justification for why the AFP is there. So, for example, there are like these propaganda articles that come out saying that the students at ALCADEV are assembling arms for the NPA, when really the only armed groups that are there are the AFP, right? So it's so backwards. Everything is so hypocritical.
And also I think because they are learning about their history and their culture, that's also another reason why they're like, oh, they're learning about all these insurgents, how to be insurgents, just because they're learning about their history.
Yeah, and how to defend their land. So we wanted to show you this video just to, because we can talk at you about all these things, but it's different when you see just exactly like the extent of how much the students know. And so this is a video from when Lucy and I went to Salupuman. This is a song that the students wrote themselves, okay? And it's about logging, and we can translate as they sing. Like that. Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll just start it. So the land was eroded as the loggers cut the trees on top of the mountain.
So nabanlas ang yuta means the land was eroded.
Bukid is mountain.
Nagbaha means it flooded.
So because the loggers cut the trees on top of the mountain, the land was eroded and the creek flooded. Like it's like a sequence. Yeah.
There's a flood. There's a flood. Because the land eroded, because the loggers cut the trees on top of the mountains.
They're saying now the people died because the creek flooded, because the land was eroded, because the loggers cut the trees on top of the mountain. Namatay means died. They keep saying it.
They're dead, they're dead, they're dead. They're dead. The people are dead because of the flood, because they the land eroded because they cut the trees on top of the mountain. Yeah.
So we're just gonna cut it off there. But that was the song, right?
Yeah.
And then we can explain to the folks in the video. Sorry, I don't know if you could hear them, but that was just a song that the students wrote from Salugpungan, and it translates to, it's like a sequence. So the whole entire thing translates to when the loggers cut the trees on top of the mountain, the land was eroded, and the creek flooded, and because of that, the people died. Yeah, but they wrote that. They wrote that on their own with the guidance of their teacher. And it's a form of education on the environmental issues, right? And then the, I guess the human rights violations in general. And these kids are like, 12 years old, 13 years old. Some of them are even younger.
So if people have any thoughts so far? Someone we haven't heard from. How do y'all feel? What are you thinking?
I think it's cool that they're performing the song because then it shows that they've internalized what's been happening to them historically and currently. In a way that's accessible, but also just the fact that they can talk about death in various forms that involves them directly.
Anyone else?
They just seem so fearless. That's just like, yeah, like, I mean, obviously we understand the graveness of it, like it's their life, but they just like say it in a way that is like not necessarily like sad or depressing. Like it's more like I'm gonna do something about it.
Yeah.
Like it's not gonna end here.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's not like, oh, I'm giving up. It's like this is just like what I'm trying to respond to. I'm just laying it out as it is right now, but it's not gonna stay the same.
Well, Christian, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, I think it's particularly important, like, that children are involved in the resistance, like, even how you were saying how, like, in the choice to move out of the community through the evacuations, like, children were part of the discussion, and so, like, from a very young age, it's important that, like, children are understanding that they're part of the future of this resistance, that they have to know their own narratives in order to resist, and that is, like, very political in of itself. So, like, even though it like looks innocent, like it's very radical.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna continue on with ALCADEV.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give a special briefing on ALCADEV specifically because there are a lot of schools in Mindanao. Like there's a Salugpungan network, and Salugpungan is not just one school; it's many different schools in different communities. But I want to talk about ALCADEV because members of Bayanihan Northeast have been going to ALCADEV for the last 10 years. So currently they're trying to figure out a way for the Northeast to adopt the school so that every year we have groups of people who go and be able to formalize the relationship that's already there, so we can like create better networks of resource support and just support in general. So ALCADEV stands for the Alternative Learning Center for Agricultural and Livelihood Development. It was founded in 2004 by an indigenous community organization that I had mentioned before called MAPASU. What it stands for in Bisaya, I don't really want to say because it's hard to pronounce and I don't remember, but it translates to in English, it translates to persevering struggle for the next generation. So like Christian said, right, the Lumads understand how important it is to instill this fighting spirit within the youth. So that's why they're named that way, right? Like Mapasu was the organization that put up the schools because they recognized the need and they also had the vision to be able to create future generations of freedom fighters. And like I said, I had gone to ALCADEV in August of 2015, about 2 or 3 weeks before the killings happened. And if you ask any student there what they want to be when they grow up, they say they either want to be a farmer, a teacher, or a community organizer. Those are the 3 categories. I asked a lot of kids, or a doctor, doctor or nurse, but always someone that serves the people. None of them wanted to be anything that wasn't related to giving back to their community. So that's the type of school that it is. And the curriculum that they would teach there are things like animal husbandry, so like teaching students how to more efficiently and scientifically, raise their animals, sustainable agriculture, and how to create irrigation systems for their farms. Also, they had Indigenous history was a class there too, so they would learn about the history of their people. And then, of course, they'd have math. They'd also prioritize Tagalog over English. So, because the languages that they know there is Manobo or Bisaya. Because Manobo, by the way, is the biggest Lumad group out of the 18. So ALCADEV is primarily Manobo people. And so they would prioritize learning Tagalog because they want them to be patriotic. They want them to learn Tagalog before they learn English. So yeah, ALCADEV is a high school. And it's in the northeast part of Mindanao in Caraga.
Separate now.
Huh?
Oh, sorry, that was... I don't know.
Okay. So I just want y'all to, I'm just going to switch to the next slide, but compare this picture. This is the picture of the school, right? This is you see the building, the beautiful trees, and then you go to the next picture, and this is a mining site in Caraga, which is only a few hours away. Because the region of ALCADEV, oh, sorry, yeah. Oh yeah, there you go. You can see it now.
Oh yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, that's the beautiful ALCADEV. This picture was taken from the classroom where Sir Emok had died, because we slept there. But then you go here, and this is the mining site. And what the organizers told us is compare your visit to the mining site and your visit to the school. If those schools and those organizations weren't there, Hanayan, where ALCADEV is, would look like this mining site.
It's like going from Narnia to New Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just,
That's New Mexico?
The desert, though, it's supposed to be like that.
It's supposed to be like
that.
Yeah. This is supposed to be all green. The soil is green. Yeah.
Is that effectively
Mining. Yeah.
I can remember. You kept saying oh, I know. I was
Yeah. So what it means is when they cut off the trees, the soil becomes loose because the roots keep it intact, right? And so the land erodes. And then,
that's how the flooding, landslides can happen.
So this region in the Philippines has the largest nickel and gold deposit in the Philippines. So out of the entire Mindanao and the country itself, is one of the richest places. 23 of the largest operating mines in the country are in Caraga. And it has the same issues that we talked about before, like the military airport off, etc. But yeah, Caraga is specifically rich. And so, like we've been mentioning, in September there was a massacre of 3 leaders who are on those signs in the picture. Juniel Campos was the newly elected chairperson of Mapasu. He was only in his position for maybe a month and he was killed. He was shot in front of his entire community. Datu Belo was also related to my TL, and so is Jonelle. They're all related to people that we knew, and in Bayan I actually got to meet Jonelle. And then Emerita Samarca was the principal of ALCADEV. He wasn't a Lumad, but he dedicated his entire life to that school. And so these are the people who were killed because they were fighting for a free education, an education that truly served the people, and they're also against the large mining corporations. And this is all part of the counterinsurgency against activists in the Philippines. And their death sparked the Stop Lumad Killings campaign, which is still ongoing. So yeah.
Like in terms of like political assassinations, I was just wondering.
What was the question?
I guess I like somewhat formed it, but like who were the people who the person who got killed first? They were like the governor of the region, or were they like just like the person who was like head of the principal of the school district?
There were 3 of them who died. So the principal of the school was Emerita Samarca, and the way he died was they slit his neck ear to ear and tied him like a pig in the classroom where we had slept.
In front of the community.
Oh, he wasn't in front of the community. He was left behind. And the reason why he was killed was because one of the soldiers was harassing one of his teachers because the soldiers had encamped outside of ALCADEV. And then Emerita Samarca was like, "Excuse me, please do not talk to my teachers that way." And the soldiers got indignant and then took him into the classroom. And then when the teacher reported back, he was like, "I knew that was the last moment I would ever see him." So he was saving someone else, like that's the reason why he was brought and killed so brutally, because it was like an indignant act. And then Jonelle Campos and Dr. Bello were leaders of their community, and what the soldiers did was they herded all of the people and like us in the center of the community, and like made a public spectacle out of their killing. To terrorize everybody, and until today, like those children are probably traumatized, right? And I was able to see them after the killings, meet some of the people I had stayed with, and they were saying that for a long time they would just like always duck if they heard any loud noises.
Even at the Anakbayan camp, which was I don't think we talked about Anakbayan, but it was like this huge undertaking of many people in Mindanao, not just Lumad, but many activists, Lumad communities, walking from Mindanao, the southernmost part of the island of the Philippines, walking up to Luzon to really put out that these things are happening, all these killings are happening, and demanding a lot of things, which we will talk about later. But we were able to go to the camp where they were staying at, and that was when Mina actually like reconnected with Ronel, her TL, and we had like a small sharing in the camp, and they were like, some of them said like even there, because there's a lot of cars, there's a lot of noise, because it was just outside a park where they created this like camp. A lot of them were like still like really like shocked, like it's like they would duck, they would be really scared of all the noises. So yeah, the trauma is like still there.
And if y'all are okay, I know we're over time, but can we watch this video by Gabriela New York?
Yeah.
Okay, so Gabriela New York had a particularly close relationship with the school because they actually, they stayed in the school for 2 weeks. That was like the majority of their exposure trip. So this video is just their reflections after Sir Emok died. No! Not again! What happened? Oh, I guess it's still here though. It's still on.
It's going.
It's just sensitive.
It's not plugged.
It's weird. I barely touched it. Okay. Okay, how's
Your healing hands.
I don't know. Okay na yan. Just press and hold the other one. That's not good. Yeah. Press and hold. Okay. And then press it again.
Oh my gosh, parang nahihina mo.
Yeah,
Parang mamatay.
What if,
Mamatay niya.
what if we move that? But they can't see the thing.
Maybe link it to.
Yeah.
Oh, walang link eh.
For those, maybe we'll just upload it later. For those online, you probably will not hear it, but we can upload it online and send it to you.
Yeah, there's a whole Parangal video actually if you want to see reflections from every mass org in Bayan Northeast. There's that is online.
Okay.
So this is just like a section. Oh my gosh, sorry, it's still not showing on the screen.
N-I-C-E, N-I-C-E. Nice, 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 nice. Chapter! Galing, galing mo talaga. Idol ka, idol ka.
Galing mo talaga. Idol ka. Go, go. We're so close. Malapit na.
Malapit.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you're so good. Magic touch talaga.
John.
Yeah.
Can you tap one, please? Salamat.
Okay. Cool. Thank y'all for
Bearing with our technical difficulties.
Okay, move a little bit.
Computer.
Oh, it's a computer. Oh, not that.
Mappy.
I was like, your back looks really straight.
Wrong.
Respect, knowledge, power, unity. In 2013, our batch saw that these are key elements of the strength of the Lumad people that they teach and learn at a young age in ALCADEV, unity being the most important. Knowing the Lumad have fought back against the corporations, teaching their children their rights, and rebuilding the school after numerous destruction attempts is testament to the power of you all, the fierce determination and unity of the Lumad. I will always hold ALCADEV and its empowered youth and dedicated teachers in a very special place in my heart, and ensure the fight for the protection of our Indigenous people continues with more power. It has made me so proud to be from Surigao. Dugang kadasig mga kauban, rest in power, Sarah. I think of this exact road approaching the entrance of ALCADEV, and I see Sir Imok standing at the front, very patient, but all the while a sense of focused power was both gentle and wise. While I adjusted to being at ALCADEV, it was Sir Imok that gave me such attention and care to my well-being, both mind and spirit. It hurts that he is no longer physically with us, and I mourn with you, and I hope that this message will bring you some comfort. I would like to take this time to honor him by thinking of the lessons that Sir Imok taught me and share it wherever I can. I will continue to fight to demand the paramilitary groups be broken up, and for the troops to pull out of your area, to demand and uphold your rights, and to seek justice.
Sir Emmett's love and dedication were unmistakable, strong enough to be felt during the conversation. He shared with us the history of ALCADEV and how crucial it is to the Lumad and its government. It was an honor to connect with him on a personal level. His joy made me hopeful, his straightforwardness an example of how to listen, and his commitment of how to work, lead, live, follow. I will never forget your voice. Rest in power, sir.
I'm sending my love and my solidarity to our Manobo sisters and brothers from Anakbayan. I was horrified to hear the news of the killings of certain Moro and Belo. What gives me strength is remembering certain and When I met Sir Ian, I knew I was blessed to simply be in his presence. His gentle energy and affection made me very aware that he was an enlightened man, not of this world. He shared ALCADEV's education and preparation, the school's vision for education, so to develop discipline, sufficiency, sustain share food, saying that the great husband, so that is why we are not, we are rising to solidarity, planning justice for our leaders, and to militarization.
Tukang Kadasig kasama niyo kami. Dugang Kadasig kasama niyo kami. You are not alone, we're with you. Dugang Kadasig kasama niyo kami. Dugang Kadasig. Bagayan mga kasama.
So, their video. That was just a clip from a larger Parangal video, which is like it's like a week, like a tribute memorial, a tribute to Sir Emok, who was the principal we mentioned. So the whole video actually is online. If you want to see like the other reflections of other people in Bayan. But yeah, for the folks who are here to see it and hear it, any thoughts or especially keeping in perspective that y'all are gonna go, right? And these are people who like also went on Expo, and you know these people they had met died after they came back.
I think it like reminds me a lot of like the moment at Seattle, like during Congress, where we had like time as like a tribute to like all of the kasamas like in the movement that have been killed recently, and then just how many people raised their hands that they like knew those people, and then I think like Ivan said something like, I know we always say like we're doing this like for the people, but like really like all of these people like paid the ultimate price for us, like, and they did this for us, and like they're fighting for us, and like it's like a, I don't know, to just like shift that view, and I think, I don't know, this just like really drives that home even more, and just like, I don't know, I think for me too, it makes me really want to go into in a place of like every person I meet to like really take advantage of my interaction with them, and to like get as much and like give as much as I can, because it might be the last time I can see them, just because of like the nature of this work, and like the risk that people are putting like themselves to do this. Yeah, and I just don't know, like, to prepare myself of like what would I say, what will I say, like if that happens, like when I come back, and like, how will I remember them and like keep them alive.
Yeah, just similar thoughts. Yeah, I guess I think for Expo, I would also try to figure out like how to really record or like immortalize the kinds of things and like actions, phrases that these people will say while I'm there. You know, to bring those stories, especially because I don't know, it's hard for us to go to Expo all the time, and also like knowing that they're like in the front lines too. So then, what if we'll be in that situation where we have to make this kind of video to really remember them? Yeah.
Just Christian or Mia, those who are doing Expo.
Yeah, no, I don't know what to say. Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, she can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, what's happening? Is it my turn? I can't tell. I think there's like a lag.
No, that's real. That happens.
Okay, okay. Well, I couldn't really hear the video. I did see on the screen something that resonated with me is you have not yet been conquered.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, you're breaking up.
The last thing we heard was the quote.
Yeah.
Not the quote.
Just proof that you have not yet been conquered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just found quite like because it's people have not yet been conquered.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it because it says it.
Yeah.
But also to speak to what Laura about trying to like immortalize the words of the people that we're meeting. Like I think it's really important, like Egypt or whatever, to be able to find ways to document everything that's happening. Because I think that's part of like one of our responsibilities as people who have like mobility and aren't sort of trying to defend the physical land, is that we can move around and like put these stories into public spaces, so it's not just their story and our story to talk about within our own circles as activists, but also to share this with people who are interested in human rights but don't necessarily know about the Philippine struggle because it's so silenced. So I think like, you know, being able to immortalize it for our own activism, but also to share those stories with other people outside of our own circles.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mia, are you okay?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm just thinking, yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of it it's really heavy and also potentially triggering. So we'd also like to honor these people, the way people are feeling during any of this content. Let us know if you need like a break or something. So
yeah. Yes, the Bakwit. So this picture that you see now is actually taken by Teresa from Anakbayan, New York. We actually went to Expo with her, and she decided to stay and extend her stay there in Mindanao. Right now, she's in Talaingod. She's not in Talaingod. She's in Tandag with the Bakwit, who have been there for, as you see in the pictures, 151 days. Yeah, so 6,000 people remain in Bakwit up to this day in the evacuation center in Tandag. And at the bottom, yes, okay, so these people are from ALCADEV. And they are staying at a gymnasium. And the longest time that there was an evacuation, were like Bakwit, the longest Bakwit duration, I guess, was it 60? 2 months. Only 2 months, 60 days. So this is way over. And they've been really You know, they've been taken away from their homes, forced to evacuate for a very long time. And, you know, for the Lumad, land is really like literally, that is where they get their food, where they get their water is from the creeks, from the streams, from the rivers, where they hunt to get animals, whatever. It literally is land is life for them. And to be out of that context, out of their homes, in a gymnasium somewhere where they cannot plant, where they cannot hunt, where they cannot get clean water, it's like, you know, it's a sacrifice, because it is, you know, we're putting this out there. The military has not left their homes, but also, you know, it's a human rights violation that they cannot even get their basic needs. Teresa was sharing that, you know, there's like 2 mugs that they share, so they can drink coffee. So after one person drinks coffee, they have to wash it, pass it to the next person. Like, it's really dire. And it's just, they've just been out of their home for too
long. Also, just to add about this picture, if you look at the picture, there are these water bottles.
Yeah.
These are actually hanging gardens. So even though the Lumads are out of their land, it doesn't keep them from farming. And the classes are still running in the evacuation center. The children are still taking classes because their teachers are also in Bakwit with them. And one thing you have to know about ALCADEV is they provide dorms in ALCADEV. So children from all over the region, like even from far away, go and dorm there. So the teachers are also live-in. So that's why the teachers are also in the gymnasium and are able to give classes. So it's also a testament to their strength. Because despite being in evacuation for 151 days up to today, since September, they're still able to commence and they're still able to impart this important knowledge into the next generation. And then Ruthie is going to go into the different demands of the Bakwit.
So the first one is to stop Oplan Bayanihan, the Aquino government's war against the people. The second is no to big mining and plantations, to cancel all mining permits and stop plantation expansion. Currently in Mindanao, Dole, Philippines, D-O-L-E, Dole, like they've taken like massive, like hectares and hectares of land to plant their pineapples. And pineapples take a long time to grow. So it's the goal is pineapple is for export. It's not to feed the immediate needs of the people in the Philippines, but it's to export these pineapples so that we can do it here in the U.S. and wherever Dole exports. The third is stop the attacks on the Lumad schools, pull out military troops from the schools and communities, rescind Department of Education Memorandum 221 or the militarization of schools. I believe this is the memorandum where they allow paramilitary to teach at the schools. The next one is to stop attacks on the communities, disband all indigenous paramilitaries, indemnify rural communities displaced by militarization, stop militarization in rural and urban communities, to stop the attacks on the people, give justice to the victims of extrajudicial killings by the Aquino government, and drop false criminal charges against community and sectoral leaders.
Yeah! Yes. N-I-C-E, 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 nice, 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 yeah! So until these demands are met, the Bakwit will not go home because the paramilitary have already been identified, yet they are just roaming around. And there's been a warrant for their arrest already issued, yet they have still not been arrested. So,
Oh.
yeah. Yes, Mia.
Oh yeah, just wondering. I forgot to ask this in the earlier part, but like, what are the names of the paramilitary forces? Just yeah, I mean if yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of them. It depends on like the area.
Okay.
Like there's the what they call the Bagani paramilitary forces, which actually some of the Lumad say that they don't want to use that term Bagani because Bagani is a word that means warrior, and those are just bandits. They're not Baganis. They're not warriors. They're just bandits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's also a primer. I don't know if
Joel, I think so.
Yeah, I think Joel sent it, but it's in the it looks like this. With by I forget her full name, but she's a Datu.
Yes. Yeah. You sent it. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So the names are all in there. So Alamara is also another one. Alamara is a paramilitary group that killed a 15-year-old boy a few weeks ago. And then you can just read through the names there. There's 20. Yeah, there are 20 of them.
Okay, I think yeah. Oh yeah, I see it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But anyway, this is sort of the part where we can just open it up to discussion. The last or second to last slide has a picture of a Lumad burning an American flag. This is one of the rallies during the International League of People's Struggle Assembly because they have rallies in between meetings. And it was a really interesting rally because Migrante was the one that convened it, and they were drawing the connections between migrants who are forced to migrate because of their economic conditions in their home countries, and internally displaced people like the Lumad, who are refugees in their own country, right? So, yeah, are there any thoughts? And I guess I just put this up because I want y'all to also draw from your own experiences, link and raise the connections.
I really like the burning of the American flag. I just.
I can take notes. Okay, sige. Nina got it. What was it?
Oh.
Read it.
Oh, you want me to repeat my comment? Is that what you said?
Like burning.
Yeah, no, it's just American. I love it. Yeah, this is. Yeah.
A question during like ILPS that was going on to like what discussion there was like about like connections with other indigenous groups around the world, or if there's like any current conversations happening or like alliances or anything like that. Because obviously like that is the same like main issues are like it's affecting everybody internationally, and I'm just like also reflecting on my own experience. Getting to travel to like a similar like kind of school to like what ALCADEV is in Chiapas. That was like a school where like many different indigenous youth from like different like tribes like would attend, and like it was like a very like also like targeted school by the military and paramilitary, and like everything was taught in their like own indigenous languages, and like the main like kind of like outcome expected of students was like after you graduate is that you like design like a project for your community and you go for a year back there and implement it.
Same thing.
You know, like that's like that's the point of you being there is like to do that, and and also getting to go to like a Zapatista Caracol and the way that they have like they self-determined and like they had to take up arms to even have access to that land. Like they built up their movement underground for like 30 years and then like just literally like took up arms and pushed the military out of their land to even have it, and they still have to guard it now and are attacked like every year in the same way and have the schools and all of that. There's just like so many direct connections there, and even when we were like entering there, we had to be like really careful about like not drawing attention to ourselves too as like internationals, like going there and like drawing the attention of the military. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, because it just seems like I would love to see what those groups would like say in conversation with each other, and like what they can do across like that much distance. But
ILPS actually has an Indigenous commission. That's perfect. So, what the commissions are in ILPS, there are 17 concerns in the International League of People's Struggle, and all the commissions are responsible for that issue and maintaining communications between the assemblies. So, I mean, I guess that each commission has their own process of how they'll stay in touch, but I'm sure that there are different Indigenous groups in that one commission that are in conversation. I'm not sure if it's specific to there are like any Mexican Indigenous organizations there, but like if you have connections to them and want to link them to the alliance or the league, then that's
I mean, I can reach out. Like a lot of it, it's not like I went through a program. This is what there's a border studies program. So it's like it was more my teachers that have been going there for like 10 years that have their contact info. But I can reach out and ask them because that was like my first time there, and I wasn't part of the coordinating process or anything. But I can follow up with them and see what's happening.
Awesome.
At ILPS, Michelle Campos was actually there was one of the facilitators or like people who were doing the report back at ILPS for that commission, for the Indigenous Peoples Commission. Michelle Campos was Dionel Campos' daughter, one of the people who were murdered in ALCADEV.
Level 17.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's a great speaker. I'm sending her some of the STP hats.
Nice.
She asked over that.
That's who you were doing it for.
She's like, I want that hat.
It's a meme. Don't let your dreams be memes.
There they are. Don't let your dreams be memes. Great thought. I love it. Are there any more?
Yeah, I just have to go.
Oh, sige. Last.
Baby shower.
Wow!
Yes.
Meron ka assessment or any other?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, mag-online.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can do that. Salamat! Thank you so much!
Thank you.
Thank you.
I emailed Dr. Branham.
Oh, salamat!
wow.
Picturean mo ba?
Hindi ko na.
Let me see attached.
Bye!
It'd be funny if we were taking a picture in one of the pieces.
Reaction shot.
And it's like action shot.
Oh my god.
This is the last slide anyway, so good timing, babe.
Yeah.
So what you need to know is exposures. One, physically prepare because the Lumads live in the hinterlands and you'll most likely be hiking.
Yes.
We hike for 6 hours.
Yes.
One way.
Yes.
Be ready to ride some variation of a motorcycle, especially the habal, which you saw in the Energizer video. It has 2 wooden flats and just kind of dangle. Or you just hold on balance to the driver.
Wait, does that mean like actually like know how to drive it?
No.
No.
Just hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God.
Yeah, no driving motorcycles, but it's basically, I mean, we can look at a picture, we'll show you later, but there's a lot of like balancing that comes with it.
And the taller people will probably be on the back of the motorcycle driver, so you'll be fine. Just hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on to the person.
I'll hold on. I'll hold on very close. Yeah.
And also the physics of the bike is very interesting because they didn't tell us. They didn't tell me this until later. But like, it's better to be close to the motorcycle driver.
Yeah, it's concentrated.
Because because it's concentrated way towards the front, especially as you're going up. But I didn't want to get close, so I was like near the back,
like,
and
close
we
to the
were
dragon.
Oh my god.
and it was like a 45-degree angle.
Oh my god.
In the rain.
Yeah.
I was
Have
like,
you ever like rode on the pegs like someone on a bike before? It's kind of like the same thing.
oh, yeah, I have, but not like uphill.
Just the rain.
It's like, yeah.
Fixing
Risky.
It's fun though.
Yeah. And then dress conservatively, bring boots, it will be muddy.
Yeah. Like rain boots.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they told me because I was wearing also like the strappy thing, which was very, very useful. But the going back down, it was raining, and it was really muddy, and I didn't have the proper footwear. And they were like, "Why didn't you bring boots
like knee high.
like knee high rubber boots?"
Yeah.
That would have. They said it that would be nice.
Are any rain boots good, or like should there be like a specific kind?
I think any high knee rubber boots, but then that's if it's rainy and it's muddy, like that's like the best footwear. Not and if it's sunny, then the little strappy thingies are good. Or hiking boots. Teresa was wearing hiking boots.
are good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be muddy wherever you go. And also like where their farms are, you have to cross streams.
Yeah.
So it's good to wear something on your feet, or else you're gonna be having wet feet for a while. Finally, be ready to prepare cultural, because as you've seen during this ED, is the Lumad will school you if you don't. They all love songs and dance, so be ready to, it has to be mutual exchange. And I didn't include this, but it's also helpful to have some kind of decided dictionary. Doesn't have to be like the most comprehensive thing, but it's good to like have a few words on hand because we'll be speaking this.
Just a really quick question. What was the longest amount that you've been on the motorcycle, like time duration?
25, 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
For me, it was 2 hours.
Okay, yeah, I was like, I feel like it would be hours, so I wanted to see.
It depends where you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because we went to Salupunan, so the trade-off was you're on the motorcycle for 30 minutes, but you walk for 6 hours.
Okay. Okay.
But people who are like experts, like who know the terrain, they walk it for 3 hours. And we were newbies for 6 hours.
That's pretty great. Like, 10 faster. Oh my god.
If you go to ALCADEV, I don't know if they'll be back by the time. Hopefully, it's like gonna be almost a year. But ALCADEV, it's like from where we were in Butuan, it was like a few-hour bus ride, maybe like 1 or 2 hours, and then it was a 2-hour hobble. And then we didn't have to walk. They just drove us there. But yeah, it was really, it was scary. So I was like, according to Dan Santiago, was like, oh, that was the scariest moment of my life. Oh, wow. Because it was raining. Yeah. But yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
What was y'all's process also for preparing the cultural? Was it like a group or like individual?
For when we went to Kamba, we didn't really. It was like more impromptu, like singing songs. We didn't prepare one. We did sing with a whole contingent. Something
like your group like chose a
extraordinary people.
Okay.
You're an extraordinary person. Like so the whole contingent learned the songs. Yeah.
So that's something we should do before we do.
Yeah, you can practice that. Just be ready for it because it's not just here that you will be asked to do cultural. Probably also in the YS sector, like in different areas. You just have one
thing that we all
You should do that.
I was, but there was no careful. Originally. Because there was the KM 30, November 30, November 30 celebration.
Oh.
Yeah. So I just sang with them instead.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. When we went to ALCADEV, what we did, like me, Chrissy, Dan, and JM, we like all had different pieces and we performed. Like so, I had a poem and then they had poems.
And it was just
then,
like one.
Yeah, it was one thing, and then we performed one song together. But yeah, it's like it can be whatever you want. But one thing you should not do is Ives's group when they went 2 years ago, they did a remix of Backstreet Boys. Nobody knew what Backstreet, like they didn't get why it was funny. So like
no remixes.
So it's a bit culturally relevant.
Wait, do they know what about Steady WAP?
No.
No.
Nobody wants.
I don't think we can do that. No. Maybe for the youth here.
Yeah.
Bakwit. Oh my god. I think they have no.
way.
What else? Yeah. Any other questions? Concerns? Maybe
I'm concerned.
He's just saying that.
Oh, me? Oh, yeah. Just wondering, when it comes to like exercise regimen, so should it? Oh, wait, no. Farming labor, we're doing that as well, right?
Yes. You're gonna be part of the
Yo.
Sweet. Okay, great. All right, I was just wondering.
You'll be doing production work.
When we went to Comval, they just started like their gardening thing. So they created. It was so fast. There was like this land with mad weed and like weeds.
No, weed's great.
Weeds, like wild plants, weeds. And like it probably like in 30 minutes, it was like cleared out. And like they had like a plot, and like, it was like they were ready to like plant. It was like amazing. I was like, whoa, like that would take me forever. Like us like doing that would take us forever. And then there was also a farmer from the Compostela Farmers Association teaching them this is how you do it. And then we were there and we were like, can we do it too? And the radish, like putting like just one seed. So it was fun. And then unfortunately we had to evacuate the next day and leave our plants there. So that was rough. Yeah.
For sure. And I also want to reiterate Anna's point too about like really being present throughout your trip, because you don't know when you might not see these people again. Just to give an example of that, there was one person on my trip who didn't remember meeting Jonelle. Actually a few, and I think it's especially hard if you don't understand the language. So like for people who don't speak the language, it's like finding ways to connect other than through speech. Then cultural work's a good way to do that, like hand motions, just like volunteering.
We were playing with the kids.
Playing
with a, what is it? I don't even know.
Slide.
Like patty cake or something.
Yeah, we taught them how to play slide.
So everyone was like, and they were like so innovative that they kind of, after they kind of learned it, they did their own thing.
Yeah,
I
I think it's
like,
better.
Yeah.
Let me upgrade this.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and also like when you're there, like not to expect like I don't know how it was for ALCADEV, but for us it was like really free form. Like there's no like program. It's really you really immersing yourself in the community. You see the kids, go play with the kids. You see the teachers, go talk to the teachers. There's a class, ask if you can sit there, sit with them. Like it's not like we're gonna pick you up and we're gonna do something. It's really you creating that for yourself because you are with the community.
Yeah, I think that's right for all Expo.
Yeah,
you have to take initiative.
Yeah,
you also have to volunteer to help around the house. Like you have to. And it's also a form of bonding.
Yeah, yeah. And then one other thing though, like also when they say that they don't want you to do something, like don't do it. Like for example, like the water in Salugpungan, Saipor was hard to get. Like you had to go down a hill to get water. So the teachers, you of course you would help get water from down the hill up to bring it to the school. So they would really ration the water when they're like washing dishes. So they would have like a bucket, like a big thing where all the dishes are, and then they really knew how to conserve the water and like use the least amount of water to clean the dishes. And I think somebody else started out. Teresa, I think, was like, oh, I'll help you, and they were like, oh no, don't do that because you're wasting a lot of water. Because we're used to just having the faucet, like running, and so So when they say don't do something, okay lang, it's okay, don't do it, and help in some other ways.
Yeah. So do y'all wanna like do assessments now, or is everyone still okay? I know we're like over 3 hours. Okay. Yeah. Are y'all okay on video? I know it's like been 3 hours.
I'm okay. Wait, wow, my voice. I just have to call my mom within an hour, but like, yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of on a time crunch. I thought this would only be 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I need to head out soon if that's okay.
Okay, that's okay.
If we're not close to wrapping up.
We're wrapping like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Can we do like just really quickly head, heart, hands, and then some of the pluses and deltas for this ED?
Okay.
And are you gonna take notes? Do you want to start, Christian, since I know you're on a time crunch?
Wait, I don't know what I don't know what pluses, deltas. What is that?
It's like something you learn. Just the head. Heart is like how you're feeling. And it's something you want to do, an action you want to take. And then pluses is just like what worked, and deltas is what can improve.
As in like in this ED, like more like logistic things.